My name is Sky Christopherson, and I wanted to share with you pretty much a lifelong pursuit of performance. And this happened in two radically different areas. One as a cyclist on the U.S. national team living at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado, and the other immersed in the internet business culture, living and working in downtown Seattle, Washington. My sport was velodrome cycling. It's the fastest flatland event in the Olympics. Speeds of over 45 miles an hour. Being an indoor, climate-controlled facility, it really is kind of the ultimate controlled environment. When I was 19 years old, I won the national championships in the 1,000-meter. And it was an upset not just because this kid from Tucson, Arizona, with obviously a pretty weird haircut, beat the reigning Olympic medalist, but also because it landed me a spot in Project 96. In the lead up to the Atlanta Olympics, there was a lot of money invested in overhauling the athlete performance training programs, everything from training techniques to equipment design. And here you see the Superbike 2, which ended up being the most aerodynamic bicycle in history. So much so they banned it right after the games. But it is hanging in the Smithsonian, so it's serving some kind of ongoing purpose. What we did is basically took each component of athletic performance, isolated it, quantified it, and then optimized it in an attempt to kind of bring all these together and produce the best performances in the world. So the results were pretty good. There were some lasting innovations, power training, heart rate zone training, very popular in fitness, spin classes, things like that. We were very good at quantifying the physical aspects of performance, but we weren't quite there with understanding sleep and diet, specifically, how those were tracked for each athlete over time. We kind of put everyone through the same template, not really aware of, some of these subtle individual differences in recovery. Personally, I was fourth in the world in 1998, won the Olympic trials in the year 2000, and actually shortly after the closing ceremonies, I proposed to my girlfriend at the time, who's here tonight. Tamara Jenkins was also a kayaker on the Olympic team. Fortunately, she said yes. Thank God. So we got married shortly after and moved to Seattle and decided to go head first into an internet startup. And you hear that stat, 9 out of 10 startups fail. And, to us as athletes, it was kind of the ultimate challenge. It was like, we're going to do whatever it takes to be in that 10% and make this work. So using the same model as Project 96, we broke down each component of what's understood as, successful business performance and just focused on those 100%. We kind of put the physical fitness and everything to the side. We thought maybe that would carry us through for a while. The first year results, we did 1.2 million in gross revenue. We were expanding quickly, and we had good results there, but that required a lot of hours, work in the office, work in front of the computer, very sedentary in nature, 80 to 100 hours a week, very erratic, sleeping, all-nighters, erratic diet, a lot of things were just kind of thrown out of whack. I started noticing some things, some weird things. First, just simple stuff like difficulty falling asleep at night, difficulty staying asleep. So we use caffeine during the day naturally, stimulate yourself a little bit, lead to some headaches, had joint pain from sitting so much. I decided to continue on and I pushed it for another year or two. And unfortunately, things just kept getting worse. You can see different things cropping up. Of course, I'm an athlete and very sensitive, to perceiving these things as well, but definitely, a decline in health. And this kind of crescendoed, with some, cramp in my chest and behind my shoulder blades, muscle, tightness. And so I went to a clinic to get it checked out, and they were concerned because there was also some cramping in my shoulder. And so they decided to put me through a full heart attack workup and took a ride in the ambulance to the ER. And I got to tell you, it was really terrifying. At one point, the paramedics in the ambulance said, "We don't want to freak you out or anything, but you might be having a heart attack." I was cleared, as having good health after a CT scan and blood work, EKG, all of that. And the doctor offered some suggestions on, how to deal with high blood pressure, medication. It was all going in this very unappealing direction, of very expensive and tedious kind of treatment. And I really just wanted my old life back. I wanted to figure out a way to kind of just turn the ship and steer it back in a different direction. So somewhat serendipitously, I was in San Diego attending another TED event, TEDx, and I saw Dr. Eric Topol giving a talk on personalized medicine. And the concept is that with advances in genomics, each of us, it's affordable enough where we can get a test, know our future risk factors, use wireless tracking technologies and new sensors to measure our body and know where we are so that we can adjust our behavior and minimize the chances of ever reaching disease. And I thought, this could be perfect. He's talking about measuring sleep and diet, some of the things we were missing before in Project 96, and we decided to do a 1-year experiment. And this would put the factors contributing to good health first before everything else. So we started off with Zeo. You wear a headband, measures your sleep stages, REM, deep sleep, shows you when you wake up. We noticed a trend right away. What you're seeing here are average deep sleep times, month to month, January through May. And you see there's a trend of declining deep sleep. And we weren't sure why that was happening. We thought maybe it was training more, maybe it was the load of training. The room was also getting hotter at night because we were getting close to the summer and we didn't have AC. So we tested that hypothesis by getting a cooled mattress topper. You can set it exactly the temperature you want. And for me, 66 degrees ended up being a really nice and cool, but not too cold. And once we did that, you see the results here in June. And it was dramatic. The deep sleep instantly responded. And that meant that I was recovering better. I felt better, when I woke up, fresher during the day. And see that the orange line there is actually the national average. And that's, the scale's not zero. It's at about 55 minutes or so. But still, I think on average, we're just not sleeping enough. And it's key for immune system and healing and all of these things. This is my pathway genomics report. What's interesting here is it shows that I have a genetic signature and markers related to higher blood pressure if I'm not exercising. And that really made sense, with the period before. It's like, had I had this information, I think I really would have kept physical activity a priority, in that time through Seattle. This company, Inside Tracker, does continuous blood value tracking, and it gives you your optimal zones, which are not population-based. For me, it'd be people in their 30s, male, Caucasian, and it would give me those actual personalized zones, which is the first time anyone's done this. This was really cool. What you're seeing here is a visualization of my circadian rhythm, 24 hours. And this was constructed, estimated based on the time before in Seattle. And I'll just flip back and forth between these. This was after the 1-year experiment. And so what you're seeing is, I'll go back and forth a couple times. The sleep is the green and the red markers there. And you see the black band there is when it gets dark and when the sun comes up. And, after we kind of moved everything, we saw that from the Zeo data that sleep was actually better when it was earlier, closer to when the sun sets and when it rises. We're genetically programmed over millions of years to set our clocks in this way. And you see the difference with exercise too. Before, the meals there in blue, 3 or 4 meals, bigger meals, very little activity indoors, in the office. I would do a little workout towards the end of the day. You're tired. The quality is not going to be very good. Working out late too affects your sleep. So these are all tied together. This is, balanced, intense and better sleep, more frequent meals. So all of this is the annual plan here of how it was all tracked from the beginning of the year to the end, included some emotional tracking and things like that. So what were the results of this experiment? I had an almost complete reversal in all of those little symptoms, which was awesome. I mean, it was almost like that scene in Superman when he flies around the earth the opposite direction and everything kind of goes backwards. It felt like that. It was like all of this stuff was just kind of shrinking, as I got stronger inside and baseline health increased. Athletically, I was back on the track, racing again, and really surprising. I was actually breaking records that I was doing in my 20s, and I did not expect that at all. Did a flying 200 meters and actually broke the world record in Colorado Springs at 35 years old. And that was for the 30 years plus. The previous holder had tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs. And so and received a lifetime ban. So this really points to acting early, quantifying yourself, uncovering these invisible things about your body, and then adjusting behavior so that you never reach the point of disease. You can't depend on the medical system because they get involved when the symptoms show up. And a lot of times that's just too late. I really hope people can start getting this in their hands and find empowerment in this information. So thank you very much.
Fascinating. Thank you. That's great.